Take your jury seat as we're about to begin Terry with the Words cross-examination series. The entire Bible is legalistic in nature. As witnesses with testimony, we, the Terrys, are put on the stand and cross-examined, answering your questions, whether you are a non-believer, a new believer, or a member of the body needing clarification. There's no time to waste. Someone's life is at stake. So let's get into today's question. I'm going to start off reading a bit from Enoch, from the book of Enoch 1. 1 Enoch. And all the others together with them took unto themselves wives, and each chose for himself one, and they began to go in unto them, and to defile themselves with them. And they taught them charms, and enchantments, and the cutting of roots, and made them acquainted with plants. And they became pregnant, and they bare great giants, whose height was 3,000 ells, who consumed all the acquisitions of men. And when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind. And they began to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish, and to devour one another's flesh and drink the blood. Then the earth laid accusation against the lawless ones, meaning the fallen angels that came down on Mount Hermon in Genesis 6. So this is where my belief stands on where dinosaurs came from. This corruption of God's creation, it tells us that they also began to sin against the beasts and reptiles and fish. So they weren't just messing with humans, taking all wives of all who they chose, and we ended up with the giants that we see all throughout the Old Testament, but also they were messing with plants and animals and fish. So some folks think that behemoth is a dinosaur, maybe a brontosaurus. I don't think so. I think it's way deeper than that when we're talking about Leviathan and behemoth. I think these are ancient deities, and Leviathan is a sea goddess monster. It's a whole nother show. Um, but some questions we can ask ourselves are, were the dinosaurs the result of bestiality between the fallen ones and the animals? Or were they the product of DNA manipulation? Both, either way, DNA manipulation or bestiality would have created and corrupted God's creation. And since they wanted to corrupt God's creation of man, it would only make sense they were going to corrupt God's creation of animals and plants as well. The Bible tells us there's nothing new under the sun, and everything that's being done now or has been done or is going to be done, it's already been done. Um, were the dinosaurs created by the fallen ones or Nephilim to be a food source? I mean, we read that they were eating men, they were eating each other, the earth could not sustain them because of their hunger and how big they were. I mean, 3,000 ells was like 2 miles high. These things were huge. If you've ever seen the mud fossil videos that are out on YouTube or seen pictures, you need to, if you haven't, you need to go look those up. It's very interesting. Um, so maybe they were a food source. Maybe they were a food source experiment, for giants gone wrong. Maybe it went right. Who knows? Maybe they were created by the fallen to eat man, so that man could not replenish the earth as the Lord had spoken to Adam and Eve, and also to Noah after the flood, to replenish the earth. There are artifacts and drawings of man and dinosaur all over the earth. We do know God sent pure, uncorrupted animals to Noah to board the ark. If dinosaurs were not on the ark, then they were corrupted, so therefore the Lord did not send them, or they were created after the flood somehow. We do have accounts of people seeing woolly mammoths in our Antarctica when it was green, flying in airplanes over Antarctica. And yes, it was lush and green, and it wasn't always ice. This was probably due to a pole shift, which people have been speculating is on its way to happen now or in the near future. There's been several of them over history, and I just recently watched a great episode on Bible verses showing how and where and when actually this would have happened in history according to Bible verses. I think our current pole right now is moving like 7 miles a year. Like, have you ever wondered? This was mentioned in the show the other day, um, and I had often wondered it myself why Greenland was called Greenland when it's right next to Iceland and it's full of snow and ice. Not like they don't have some kind of grass there, but it's definitely wouldn't have been named Greenland. If the dinosaurs didn't board the ark due to corruption, it's possible we still had large animals after the flood, like we still had giants after the flood. The giants were just not as large as they were before the flood, but also we didn't have as much oxygen and vegetation and in that amount. With the oxygen levels that were before the flood, because there was some kind of the heavens dropped, I believe, during the flood. This is why man only lived to be 120 after that. And if you um, read the Old Testament, you'll see that people were living into the 600s. People were very, very strong. You could probably just run and do all kinds of exercise and never get tired. The fruits had to be bigger, the trees had to be bigger. I believe they did an experiment somewhere with a tomato plant and gave it some kind of an enormous amount of oxygen of what they would believe it would have been like before the flood, and it grew just a tremendous amount of tomatoes. I can't even remember the number, but it was just proving the theory of what would happen if you had more oxygen like we did before the flood. The giants weren't as large as they were before the flood, but no one's in agreement as to whether this was from a second incursion or from a recessive gene manifesting, kind of like you might hold a recessive gene for diabetes or another disease, but something that you did in your diet or something else caused it to activate. right? We know that things that we do, even things that we're involved in, change our DNA. So think about what that's doing to people who are involved in the cult, right? Satanic ritual ceremonies, their DNA is changing. So, where are dinosaurs now? Um, I don't know. I don't trust the Ice Age theory. Basically, we learned it in school and we can't believe a single thing they taught us in school. I know there's an explanation or truth behind the lie, but to be honest, it's one thing I have not researched yet. Someone may have that answer and could put it in the comments or a link to an article or a video explaining the truth behind that. A pole shift seems more probable to me without doing any research. And I certainly don't believe birds are the closest relative at all. That's just absurd to me. Like, what if they never even existed? Like, what if all the bones are fake? What if it's all a lie? The whole thing could be a lie. You never know. It'd be a great deception to steer people from Christianity. And we also have dinosaur artifacts that are normal animal size and they're not gargantuan. Like some even show bestiality in these lizards or dinosaurs being kept as pets and being friendly. It's a shame they've lied and hidden our true history. I wish I was better versed on this topic. Um, but right now, my best answer is they drowned in the flood as being the product of DNA or bestiality with the fallen and the Nephilim. Why are they not here? God did not allow it. We do know that God created Leviathan and Behemoth and the sea monsters and dragons. He created everything. And some people think that dragon is dinosaur in the Bible because the word dinosaur didn't come about to like 1841. So we'd never see the word dinosaur in the Bible anyway. However, I'm not sure I'm all on board with that neither. I think there's some verses in the Bible where that could be the case, where it says dragon, that could mean a giant lizard. Um, but most of the time when I see the word dragon, I'm thinking like the dragon, okay, the enemy, the devil, the serpent. That's what it's usually referring to. However, um, I do admit there are some verses where dragon mentioned in the Bible could very well be giant lizard. And there's like every time you read a verse, there's like 7 different layers or 7 different meanings to it. There are verses that could totally mean giant lizard or be referring to these dinosaurs, but also mean the serpent, the dragon, the devil at the same time. That's my explanation for dinosaurs. I'm right now, until I've done more research, I am on board with the DNA manipulation, bestiality from the fallen ones. They were not put on the ark because the Lord sent the animals to Noah, and these would have been corrupted, so they never would have been on the ark. They would have died out in the flood, but if they came back and had some kind of reemergence, like the giants in the Bible had a reemergence through a reincursion. If there was a reincursion of the fallen ones messing with humans, mating with humans again to produce giants, obviously that would have happened again with the animals too, because they're evil and they're fallen and they're corrupt. And if they did it the first time, they're going to do it the second time. They do the same things over and over again. History repeats itself, right?